Hello there, it's time for Press Pass. My name is Mark Masai, and today we focus on the university crisis. And first of all, someone might not blame someone wanting to, a parent wanting to move their child from a public university because there's a lot of strikes, moving them to a private university where it will be uninterrupted. But as you watch this, what they're saying is a conspiracy. What's your position on it?
I think feel for them, number one, but I also want them to understand the following facts. The first fact that I would like people to understand is that these students who are being sponsored by the Kenyan money, public money, in private universities are Kenyans. Secondly, good systems liberalize the admission process. So students just choose to study where they want to study, and the sponsorship will depend on whether they have secured government or public sponsorship, or it is going to be private sponsorship. In the long run, when these individuals graduate, they are going to be joining the same workforce, the same market, the same system. So I don't think that the argument should be like, since you are going into a private university, the government of Kenya or the public, the people of Kenya, have no business in addressing your needs if you so apply to be given that opportunity. Number two, this public-private university conspiracy, which we are talking about, how many private universities would be able to meet the numbers of public universities? We are talking about very significant figures in terms of those students who have been admitted into private university programs. And those private university programs are perhaps very special programs which these students have sought. Let's say, for example, right now it is general knowledge that the law school at Strathmore, which is not even accepting government-sponsored students, they only say they admit students directly who are able to pay for them. But there are students who would have aspired, whether they are sponsored by public money or no public money, to go and study at Strathmore, the law school, or to go and study at a university which is well renowned, whether it is public or private. So at the end of the day, this debate will have to be consolidated. And before we jump into conclusions about whether it is a conspiracy to kill public universities by allowing private universities to benefit from public money, we needed to ask ourselves, where did the idea come from? And how come then that students, given free will, are able to select programs which are offered in private universities and not public universities?
Yes.
Yeah. Perhaps I could comment on that. And I find Prof's argument completely interesting. You see, where the idea came from, at least how it was put to the public. When they first admitted, when they floated this idea of admitting students to private universities, they said, look, the public universities have no capacity to absorb all these students, and therefore, let's take some of them to private universities. Now, he has said that a university, a public university, got 4 students. A private university got thousands of students. And now they are changing the argument that these people have a right to choose. They can choose, for example, Strathmore Law School. I have no problem with Strathmore Law School.
Yes.
But some of those schools have not produced any advocate. Do we know any advocate from those schools is mentioned? That somebody will say, I want to go to this school because I know advocate so and so. These arguments really have changed. And I think we would disagree completely. Perhaps part of the reason, if you look at the commission is chairing now, they introduced an amendment secretively in 2016 and changed the composition of the Commission for University Education. Right now, you have those private universities sitting there in his board and chatting with them. And that's why now they have this, perhaps, this nice neoliberal arguments, as my colleague has said. Now let the market choose itself.
I think Che has always had both. Che before CUE, Che has always had private and public universities represented. In fact, the old law, Che had 2 private university vice chancellors sitting in the board and 2 public universities.
What was the effect of Universities Amendment Act of 2016 on the board, on the composition of the board?
Each one of those sectors is represented.
Is the private private sector got a higher increment in representation? Right. And we are actually moving there. So perhaps this conspiracy theory is actually right.